Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Octopus Electric Vehicles workshop slash YouTube live about the brand new Polestar updates. Today is going to be fairly short. We're going to try and keep it nice and snappy for you, try and keep it within 45 minutes or so. What we're going to do is run through a little bit of the history of Polestar, who they are, where they've come from. Then I'm going to talk about the updates that we see, and then we're going to run into, I've got a car out on the driveway as well with the keys in my pocket, just had to double check that there, and get you all out to have a look at that in a Q&A as well. Today is really about helping everybody learn as much as possible about electric cars, and that's really what we're here to do at Octopus Electric Vehicles. For us, if you can walk or cycle to work, you absolutely should. And if you have to drive, please make the choice to go electric. We're here to make that choice as simple and as easy as possible, and also to help you take steps to make that journey easier. The idea is that you come to us and have one place to get all of the information about all the cars that are available with more than 100 miles range, and also how to get charging and renewable energy tariff all under one roof to make sure that when your car arrives, you're taking advantage of the most accessible and cheapest rates in terms of energy, and also helping to promote a greener grid. Part of that is salary sacrifice, which is probably the most accessible way to get a car on your driveway right now. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about Polestar and about their real onslaught on trying to take on Tesla. I think it's really interesting because I've had the car for 2 days now, and really it is very different to a Tesla. It feels very different. It drives very different. It's much more clunky and robust in terms of feeling a bit more tractorish or a bit more Scandinavian. And for sure, it is Scandinavian. For those of you that don't know, Polestar started as a Volvo sort of race car team. Actually, Polestar built race cars for Volvo, and then they also started building racing engines. People then walked into the showroom and asked for a Polestar, and Volvo couldn't help them at that point. Soon, the little blue badge became part of sort of Volvo's lineup, a little bit like Type R is for Honda, or a little bit like GT3 or RS is for Porsche. It was just a nomenclature, it was a naming structure that helped you identify what was fast and what was maybe for driving round the shops. Polestar in 2014, 2015, can't remember precisely, announced that they were branching off and they were becoming their own brand, and they were only going to focus on performance electric vehicles. Now, their first car was a hybrid, Polestar 1, but a hybrid in a very different sense. It used the petrol engine to top up the electric power, not the electric battery, the electric power. So once you were going above sort of 65, 70 miles an hour, the petrol engine helped give that bit of kick to allow the electric motors to give you even more torque. That was a bit of a learning process for Polestar, and the last of those cars will be running off the production line. But now, about a year ago into the UK, they launched Polestar 2, which is a fully electric, back then all-wheel drive saloon car that's essentially what would, for those of you that are not into your cars, something like a Ford Mondeo in terms of size, or a BMW 3 Series or Mercedes C-Class. However, just this week, in fact, they announced a whole load of changes to bring the costing of Polestar 2 down. Originally, when launched, it was all-wheel drive, and now it comes in both front-wheel and all-wheel drive. We're going to run through some of those changes before we get into a bit of a Q&A with the car itself. Polestar 2 started, as I said, as a four-wheel drive car that could do about 290 miles. That was in both the all-wheel drive and the performance models. Now, the performance model is not like Tesla. It's not upgraded to go 0 to 60 faster, very slightly, but not quite. It's much more around that driver input and how that driver feels in that driver's seat. Things like new suspension, things like new brakes, which are all still available on all of the upgrades. And the car I have on the driveway today is the launch Polestar 2 in the performance outfit. So we can have a look at that and help you understand what, if you are looking at Polestar, what you could have on your Polestar 2 or what you might not need to have on your Polestar 2. For me, it's really important to make sure that when we look at helping you get into an electric car, that 3 or 4 months down the line, you still love it and it's still part of what you need it to do. The worst thing for me is that in 2 or 3 months' time, you're going for coffee with friends and you're telling everybody how terrible your electric car is, when actually it's just that we've not helped you pick the right electric car. And that could be that we don't get you a car with enough range, or it could be that we don't get you a car that is in the right price bracket and has too much range, actually. So that's what Polestar have done really, really well with this new model. What they've done is they've taken away the rear motor, they've reduced the battery capacity, and the starting price is now around £39,000. Now, of course, that still is slightly more than the government grant, so it's still slightly more than would access that government grant, but to come from about £50,000 down to that sort of £39,000 space in 12 months is really quite strong. And I think as we see more and more electric cars grow into maturity and the technology become more and more mature, we'll see manufacturers be more and more comfortable with reducing the cost. We're seeing that with Nissan at the moment as well. So what do we have on the new car? Well, on the new car, we have 165 kilowatts, not kilowatt hours, kilowatt front wheel drive motor. And the battery pack is down to 68 kilowatt hours. It's a reduction of about 3 of the packs. So what Polestar do is they separate the packs, or they separate the batteries into packs. So they have 27 in the original, and they now have 24. Polestar battery packs are a little bit different to your Tesla. They have these sort of pouch cells. So at Tesla, your cell looks very much like an AA battery. The Germans, so Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, they love what they call a square or a pouch cell, which is like a long, actually it looks like an A5 notebook is probably the best way to sort of suggest it. And it slots in nice and easily. And that allows them to be very clever with their weight management, even if it's slightly not as good in the range department. What Polestar have done is created a cell that works in a similar way, but the tabs hang the cell. So there's a little bit of a bulge and then it comes back, a little bit like a teardrop, but not quite. This allows them to both get amazing thermal efficiency and also incredible energy or weight management within that battery pack. That's why they can quite easily drop that to that 24 pouch or the 24 pack cell battery and make sure that it's all okay there. What they've also introduced is a long range car as well, again sticking with that front wheel drive architecture. Now, I think that's very much rooted in their Scandinavian heritage, but also in the fact that Volvo have done a lot of testing and have a lot of data on how to keep cars super safe, and especially front-wheel drive cars in things like the snow, in the wet, in the ice, and also in front collisions. That car can do circa 335 miles. So really chapping or knocking on the door. That's a Glaswegian phrase. Knocking on the door of that Tesla there as well. It will do 0 to 60 in the same time as the shorter range version or the standard range version, which is about 7.5 seconds. So if you are really concerned about your 0 to 60 time, you really need to look to the all-wheel drive cars to start seeing a reduction in that 0 to 60 time. However, if you're really not fussed, really base that decision based on your day-to-day mileage and that the longest journey you've done in the last 2 years. Once this video is over, you can absolutely click in, follow us, or get in touch with us as to how we can help you learn more about that. We'll pop some links to workshops in the description below once we're all sorted and this video is all up and running and done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the chat panel on my screen here to let me see anything. If you do have any questions, please pop it in the chat panel. Believe we're on Facebook and on YouTube today, so they should come through absolutely fine and get you all sorted there. And also on the left-hand side of me here, I have some of the Polestar pages. So if there's anything in particular you want to go in and have a look at, we can absolutely get that sorted for you as well. What they've done, Polestar, is they've stripped back some of that ability to do an entire sort of one size fits all and gone to packs. So you can add packs to the car for maybe convenience, for the ability to be in a little bit more comfort, or to have something that helps you on the motorway, or to get into that performance pack. Finally, that all-wheel drive dual motor is what we've seen on the road for the past sort of year or so. It's 300 kilowatts. It has the same size of battery pack, and it will do circa 298 miles, give or take 300 miles on that full charge. Now, with those packs, we're going to go in and have a look at those packs for you and really have a chat through them. You have three. You have Pilot, you have Plus, and you have Performance. It seems that Polestar love alliteration and they love P's to help you go through there as well. What we'll do is we'll leave the talking about how the car drives probably to us actually being round the car, because I think that helps you understand when I'm sat in that driver's seat, when I'm looking at different bits of the car, you're able to see different things and understand a little bit more. But absolutely pop into the chat panel and we'll see if there's anything you desperately need to see in that car there. All the cars are able to tow, which is quite incredible. And all the cars have the same charging architecture. So they have all the availability of all Polestars to charge at 150 kilowatts and at your home as well. It's really important to have a wee think about that. They also look like they've got 3-phase installed on there, but bear with me on that. Just from what Polestar claim in terms of charging times, that doesn't look like it is a 7.4 kilowatt charge. That looks like it's an 11 kilowatt charge. So we'll keep up to date with that for you and let you know. So what we have is we have the Pilot pack, which is the first and the easiest and the most accessible pack on there. That includes new lights, new lighting sequences, a camera, the 360 camera, which you will see very briefly in a video that we have prepared for moving between here and outside. When we do move outside, just be aware we are running a new microphone setup and a new piece of streaming software, so hopefully you can all hear me. That should be all okay. But when I go outside, I will be swapping to my headphones. So if you can't hear me, please pop it in the chat panel. We'll maybe do some narration over the top afterwards to help you get that sorted. You also have some safety features in that system as well that allow you things like blind spot sort of warning system and cross traffic alert with brake as well. I experienced that in London, in the city, actually driving it out from the office, where a moped came up alongside me. And as he came up alongside me, he slightly moved out across and the car slammed on the brakes hard because it thought that this was traffic coming right the way across. I was quite impressed by it, actually. And that's where we see that changed things as well. It also comes with automatically dimming exterior mirrors. So if you are used to that, fantastic. If you're not used to that, don't really worry about it. You'll be used to driving without that. I think up until I was working at Tesla, there were lots of things that I wasn't used to on a car. I was fairly used to it being fairly bog standard. But as time goes on and as technology gets better, driving becomes safer and safer and safer. You then have the Plus pack. And in that Plus pack, you see new things like the Harman, or the same things, but whether or not you want it. So you see the Harman Kardon sound system. You see the new seats, so you see the charcoal and the slate. The car that we have outside has the slate with the black ash decor, which we'll show you on the car outside as well. You have heated rear seats, you have a heated steering wheel, and something else which is super cool for those cold days, you have heated windscreen wipers. So little bit of de-icer on that windscreen, and then that is carrying all of that ice off that car all the time. You have an inductive charger to charge your phone. Whether or not you need that, considering it's got USB-C as standard, we don't know. And also the panoramic screen with a heat pump as well. The heat pump just allows you to run the heater in the car a little bit better to allow you to be able to not affect the range in the same way. I was trying to work out how to say that. So the heat pump will allow the car to heat the cabin better, more efficiently, and not affect the range on the battery. Hopefully that makes sense. If it's not clear as mud, please let me know in the chat panel and we'll see what we can do to maybe do something around heat pumps in the future. Maybe a new YouTube live would be awesome for that. Finally, you also have the grocery bag holder, which I will show you when we go out into the car. I think I love it. I don't know if it's worth £4,000 or £100 a month on your lease, if that is the only, well, £50 a month on your lease if that's the only reason you're moving to it. But for going to the shops, collecting something and staying really on point, or being able to carry stuff really efficiently, I think this is really, really cool. And then finally, you have the performance pack. The performance pack is as it was before. It comes with a high gloss panoramic sunroof. It comes with dual flow dampers by Öhlins and also 20-inch alloy wheels. Don't worry too much about those alloy wheels. That's really not that important. They allow you to get better rubber. So they allow you to put better tires on the car, which is super, super important. The two things that are really important there are the dual flow dampers from Öhlins and the Brembo 4-piston aluminium front calipers. They will stop the car so much faster. That's an oxymoron. I get that. They will slow the car down. They will reduce the speed faster than anything else on the market right now. It really feels. The bite of them is incredible. The feel underneath your right foot is utterly incredible too. And you can really feel the car working for you underneath. They're ventilated as well. If you look at Tesla, the way they look at performance is to add more power. Just add more power, put bigger wheels on there to give you access to better rubber, and add more power again. But if it's not heating, if it's not allowing the heat to escape the system, if it's not being efficient with the way that it works its brakes, if it's not allowing the car to do cleverer things, then actually it really doesn't help on circuit. Now, on circuit, I totally get that nobody here is going to go on circuit regularly with their EV, especially if it's on something like salary sacrifice. However, the thought process in the way that these car companies have built these two very distinct and very different performance packs is in the way that they see driver engagement and performance. So something that's really, really, really stood out to me when I was driving the car is how understeery a Tesla Model 3 performance can be on corner exit, and just how well dialed in this car is as you go through the corner. So somewhere on snow, somewhere on ice, in the wet, the Polestar is going to be much, much more predictable for you. This is what these two things do. The dual flow dampers also are a really clever way of stiffening the car up, but allowing you to go over small things that would otherwise shake the entire car in a really nice and soft output. The Polestar 2 is much heavier than the Tesla, so therefore the suspension needs to work much better. And in a braking phase or in a turning phase, you want the car to compress slowly, and you want the car to pitch and roll slowly as well. But you also want to know you can feel the car pushing back against you. Whereas what the dual flow does is it allows that top half to do that nice and slowly and really keep that nice and soft, or keep that nice and supple or hard to stop the body roll. But all those little movements of going over rocks or going over a drain, the suspension can deal with really well. It means that we can ramp the suspension up to being stiffer, and your teeth aren't going to fall out because you're driving over an old broken up path. It really helps you to break those down in those two ways. If you think of when we did this as a workshop, we did it with rally cars. We showed rally cars at Rally Sardinia, where you could see the top of the car was staying still or was moving nice and slowly, while the wheels were moving really quickly as they overcame all the rubble. Because these are then adjustable as well with a switch at the bottom, what that means is that for your movement between your summer and your winter tires, which we should all be doing anyway, it's really simple and really easy. You don't need to change suspension geometry. You can just click it from 7 to 2, and that is going to be the way that it feels, because the suspension has the biggest impact on those wheels moving there. You can tick all of those options up and you can have a car that's nearly at £60,000. The only thing that is important to point out is that you can mix and match any of these except the performance pack. If you want a performance car, you have to go all-wheel drive and you have to go long range. For all the other packs, you can mix and match as you go and really start to choose your specific car, and we can really help you with that here at Octopus. You can pick up the phone, drop us an email, and we can help you make those right decisions there on that. Now, I realize I've been talking for about 20-25 minutes. Probably don't want to hear me anymore. We probably want to go out and see the car. We're going to try and do something magic. So rather than you seeing my phone and sort of what it can see at the moment and it wobbling all over the place and some other stuff, we're going to try and make it switch really nicely and easily. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my headphones in, so hopefully you can hear, I can hear you, or if anything needs to go on, we can do that. I can hear myself, which is good. And let's swap to this video. Before I go, here's the car key just so you can see it. Looks like this here. And do I have my house key so we don't get locked out? Yes, I absolutely do. Let's see you in about 2 minutes' time at the car.
Hello, I realise that I'm now on mute. There, hopefully you can hear me all now. You can see the car. This is me here. We're outside the front of my house, just because we have a couple of cars in the driveway. We have the new Mazda MX-30, which we'll be doing another one of these next week for, so keep your eye out for that. So this is the Polestar 2 here. This is it in the black, which is really quite lovely. I think it looks fantastic in the black. It's the standard colour. And we'll have a quick look around the car for you and help you understand a wee bit more. What we'll do first up is we'll show you the charger. So the charger is on the back corner here and opens up just like that. Very easy, very accessible, super easy to get into, and fantastic for those people there. Also, this pulls out just to keep it nice and safe and clean. Also, for when you're charging at home, you don't have to worry about getting it confused. And that'll run it up to 150 kilowatts. You've got your shark fin just here. I'm not mirrored, so that makes it a little bit complicated. But you've got your shark fin just here, which is your sort of your DAB radio and things like that. So if you think it looks a little bit strange, that's what that's for. You'll see a lot of new cars with those as we go on. Now, to open the boot, I do need the key. There is a thing where you can sort of kick underneath and it will open up as you do that, but I haven't managed to stuff that just yet, so I'm going to open it with the key. And as you'll see, as I said, the thing that's really interesting about this car compared to the Tesla is that it's a hatch, not a saloon. So if you've got dogs or something like that and you're comparing this to the Tesla Model 3, this makes much more sense because those dogs can jump up and in nice and easily and get you all sorted in there. What you'll find is there's a nice amount of space in here with the car there that does that there. And then if you're standard and you're not looking at anything else, what you'll find is that this will look like this, and with your space there as well. That grocery hanging that we were talking about is this here. So this is what that does, and it allows you to hang your grocery bags on here and in there. As I said, I don't think it's quite worth £4,000 for that alone, but if you are looking at things like the Harman Kardon, if you are looking at things like the sunroof or the panoramic roof, and you need to justify it to yourselves, these things are brilliant as well. So we'll close that over and let you see. Finally, just here you've got a ski hatch, and you'll also see you've got 3 tethers, it looks like, for the ISOFIX there, which is very different to other cars. You've got some hooks for hanging some stuff in, some bungee cords, things like that. And you also have a 12-volt socket down here. I don't know if you can see that because I'm looking at it upside down. I realised that my cam's at the other end. So that's it there for you sorted. We can close it and walk away with this button here. We can also lock it as we walk away as well, which I really quite like. I never thought of it before, but actually leaving your car is probably one of the last things you do. I'm just checking my keys in the pocket. But going to the boot's probably one of the last things you do. So you press it, and as you walk away, that car's now completely locked, which is a really handy feature, actually, because I'd never thought of it like that before, but that is the last thing you do. You grab your rucksack, you grab your jacket, and then you keep going. I'm going to have an open up here, let you see in the back. Nice enough. That's my seating position right there. So there's a good bit of legroom. It's not out of this world good, but for a family car, it's really quite impressive. This front seat, my housemate is an ex-rugby player. He's really quite big. That's why it's so far back. I think in the real world, that would be a little bit further forward. And then also, nestling down at the bottom there is another ISOFIX for that front seat, which is not what you'll find really anywhere else, which is really fantastic. So if you need to take 4 children in seats, you should be able to do it in this car. We'll open up and let you see inside the front as well. So I'm going to get in, fire the car up, and here we go. So I am in the car now. We're going to turn it around. You'll see that there's not an awful lot of charge in it. That's because I've had it out today. I'm going to go take it to charge up today and go there. This is that slate that we were talking about. So this is the slate colour. I think it's really quite lovely. And there's your black Ashwood decker as well. What you'll find is the orange seatbelts are not compulsory. They are only in the performance car. So you don't have to worry about those. Those are only in the performance car. So if you don't like how lady they are, that's absolutely fine. You'll be okay. what you'll find is actually this seat is a little bit further back than my normal seating position. I normally sit a little bit closer. We're going to just get this car up and on for you so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to leave that handbrake on so that we're all good. But you can see this is what the car looks like when we're all sorted and ready to rock and roll. We'll hit OK there so we can see that disappear. You have your camera here, which I think is fantastic. That's part of that pilot package. This is an amazing system here to allow you to go through. That part of the plus package that we're talking about is that you won't be able to see it right now, but there is just up here, there is a Polestar logo that projects onto that panoramic roof there that goes up to that roof. So that's what that's for as well. And then you have some other things. So in here, very like the Tesla, very simple system. I was really quite impressed with just how simple and easy this was to use. And it's one of the first cars with a touchscreen that I've pressed that isn't a Tesla that's been lightning fast underneath my fingers as well. One pedal drive is really strong. It comes on really sort of softly and then aggressively adds in. So if you're used to a little bit of regen, this will suit you. But it will normally, it doesn't feel quite as, how do I put it? It will feel quite easy and then all of a sudden it'll get really quite aggressive. So if you're feathering that throttle, that's the best accelerator, sorry, that's the best way to do it. And also your first, it seems the first period of braking as well is under regen. So your first little phase of braking is regen as well. It's bled in quite nicely. You don't really notice the difference. Sometimes you can hear it and you can see it. It shows you on the dash. And when you're braking hard, it will show you an orange grated bar coming up the way into the regen part rather than the orange bar going the other way. I know that sounds really complicated. I can't show you that right now, obviously, because I can't hold my phone and drive, but just know that you have both regen on the pedal if you want it, on the throttle pedal, on the accelerator pedal, sorry, if you want it, and also on the brake pedal if you want it too. You also then have access to your main screen here, so everything's broken down. I've had my phone connected so we can listen to the radio, things like that. But you also have Google Play here, so you can head in, download things like Spotify and other things that will be coming as time goes on to allow you to have access. You can also say, hey Google, and it will load up for us as well. Let's see if we can do that just now. Hi Google. Okay Google. Oh, it's waiting to connect. Oh, it's saying who's waiting to connect. Okay Google, where is my nearest donut shop? Technology is fantastic when it works, isn't it? Thank you. Okay Google, where is my nearest donut shop? So we'll automatically. Now I'm sure there are other donut shops available from the ones that I've just shown you there, but it gives you an idea of just how easy this car is to use. I've been really blown away by that. The sharpness of the screen, you probably won't be able to see that on the thing that we're looking at on my phone, but the sharpness of that screen is incredible. The one thing that I have been not so impressed with is sometimes it feels like some parts of the interior are wipe downable or are not plastic. Plastic's the wrong word, but a little bit sort of hard wearing. But then we have to remember that Polestar are going through a big thing of making everything within the car super recycled. So things like bottles are used to build the seats, and lots of other things are being recycled to make this car better. So that's probably why it has a different feel in terms of interior to what you'd normally expect. It does feel premium. It does feel really nice. And the one thing that I have to admit that as an ex-Tesla guy, I am very impressed with is the center console here. I was actually, when I looked at photos, I was a wee bit, I don't think that's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be really comfortable. Actually, it's so nice just to sit and rest your arm on while you're driving down the motorway. And also, it makes you feel really safe, makes you feel really secure within that driving seat as well, which is something that's so important, especially if we're doing any form of slightly faster driving. It will make you feel like you're much more in tune with the car. The steering can be a little bit bereft of feel at times. It feels a little bit like it's belt driven. It feels a little bit like you're pulling a belt, which then pulls the steering. Um, but I think that's to do with the weight of the car. You can play about with that on the dashboard and change the steering feel, so you can stiffen it up, you can drop it out, or it's just that the car is so compliant that actually it's really good in terms of getting into the corner and turning around. Obviously, on the main roads, you can't really experience what that is, but I would say that the steering is less direct than the Tesla for sure, um, which is nice for people that are moving from traditional cars. You don't feel the weight as much as you would expect. It doesn't feel as heavy as you may think, but um, it can be quite heavy in terms, or it can feel quite. Uh, that steering can feel fairly lethargic sometimes. I don't mean the turn in, I just mean the feeling of the steering can feel fairly lethargic. Unlike the Tesla, the only thing that I would say that's not quite as nice as the Tesla is these stalks here. They're made of plastic, which is absolutely fine. I've got no problem with plastic. They just don't feel quite as sleek or quite as nice as the Tesla, but everything else feels really, really lovely, really well put together. And this is how you start the car. So when you press the brake, essentially the key's in there. Then all you do is you pull that towards you, and that's the car started. We'll pop it back in park because it's complaining that I don't have my seatbelt on. What we'll do is we'll jump out, show you the front, which is tiny and just for cables, and then we will wrap up there unless there are any questions. What I have realised is that I can't see the questions coming through right now, which is very clever of me. So if there are any questions, what I'll do is we'll sort of play our outro video. I'll head back to my computer, and if there are questions, I'll fire back up and say hello. If there aren't questions, don't worry about it at all, and we'll shut that down there. But if you do have anything, if you're reading this at a later date or you're watching this at a later date, pop in the comments or click on the links that we add in there, and we'll get you all sorted as well. If you want to stay up to date and do some other things with us as well, see some other cars, that Mazda, for example, and some other vehicles that we've got going on, click subscribe and click that bell icon just to stay up to date with what we've got coming. I have an MX-30 at the moment, which hopefully we'll do next week. And I also, on Wednesday, have an ID3 coming. So if you are in that sort of £39,000 bracket of one of these, do you buy a really standard one of these, or do you buy a really well-spec'd ID3? It's an interesting comparison there to have a wee think about. So we'll see if we can keep you up to date with that. Sadly, we don't have the space to run the two side by side, which is kind of something that we look to do maybe in the future. So we'll jump back out. So as I was saying, the brakes and the suspension, and also the gold wheel nuts, because everybody wants gold wheel nuts, are these here. So this here is the performance brake caliper, and also this is the performance wheel. Bigger, and it's also running on these larger Contis, these Continental sports, which allow you that little bit better rubber on the roads. But again, if that's not for you, don't worry about it. It's just to make you aware of what that extra money is there for. Now, has that lifted up? I don't think it has. I'm going to go and pop that again, and hopefully we'll let you see inside the front. Hold on a second. There we go. So there's your front there. It's not quite as easy as it does have a safety system here, like the Jag I-Pace. And you can also see down into where you see these. Very small front, obviously just for your cables. It's absolutely fine. 3-pin plug and your Type 2, all fairly normal, fairly Polestar, sort of branded, but nothing too much to worry about there. And then also your washer fluid. Those are the only things really you need to worry about with this car as well. The other thing to remember that Polestar and Volvo pride themselves on is safety. So part of that interior, so that center console, things like that, are all because they want to make this the safest car they can. The other thing you have, which sits just about here at the front of the car, pushing back, is something called spock, which fits just in front of the battery. And what that allows is in a side impact or in a partial offset, side partial offset. That's why it's spock. Collision, it will push all it will use the battery as like a roll cage, and it'll push all the debris around the outside of the car, keeping you as the driver super safe and also your passenger. That middle part, so the floating console that we had just here, the floating console here is that in a side impact that rolls, and as that rolls, the car stays still, but as that rolls, that takes and sheds the energy up and down the car rather than pushing you across the road, allowing the car to take that crumple and that impact of the side impact while keeping using the battery as a really strong base to keep you safe there. Volvo have their own crash test facility, which Polestar have been allowed to use, and I think that's really kind of. I think as we go on, we see more and more sort of collaboration between Polestar and Volvo. If you are looking at the XC40 Recharge, essentially that is just a Polestar 2, which you can see here. That's just to give you an idea of size, slightly how big that is there. But it's essentially just a Polestar 2 that's raised up on stilts a little bit and also is available as an SUV. But it is a Polestar in everything other than name. So what I'll do is I'll leave you with a passing shot here. I will let Ollie, our secret squirrel, can I get that sorted there? I'll let Ollie, our secret squirrel, click a couple of buttons, and hopefully we'll see you again soon if there aren't any questions. If there are, I'll be back on in a couple of seconds.